Welcome back to the Crab Clown Podcast. Today's episode is going to be pretty unique. You see, in this episode, it is just me speaking exclusively about my time at YouTube. I'll take you on a journey from 2020 all the way to 2025 and walk through everything we've gone through together as a YouTube channel, and you can help determine when you jumped on board according to the topic that we're talking about. Now, during this presentation, I do fast forward several years and then rewind several years, and we hop around a little bit to talk about our various benchmarks, but it won't be terribly difficult to keep up. Let's jump right into the action. Welcome to episode 3 of the Crab Clown Podcast. Let's do this! Stand with me!
Welcome to the Crab Clown Podcast. Crab Clown Jimmy is a YouTube personality specializing in cinematic gameplay adventures in survival games such as Grounded, ARK, and 7 Days to Die. The Crab Clown Podcast, while an associated production, will vary a bit in purpose, with common themes centering around education and entertainment. Sit back and enjoy the conversation.
Here we are, and welcome to my YouTube story. Today we're going to talk about how I got started in YouTube, why I got started in YouTube, what the journey has looked like for me over the last 4 years, almost 5 years, some of the obstacles, some of the joys, some of the wins, some of the losses, but more importantly, some of the people I met along the way who really got behind me to make this hobby start to take shape. Let's not waste any time. Let's jump right into this. So when did this all begin? When did Crab Clown Jimmy start? The short answer to that is May 2020, when we were all locked in our homes. We were all fighting for our jobs. We were all wearing masks, trying to avoid all of the risk that COVID brought to the world and to all of our neighborhoods and to all of our communities. And I was working a desk job. I was working on a team that I loved. And it was an amazing, amazing season for me because I loved my job. I had finished all of my degrees and I worked with a bunch of amazing people that I loved being around all the time. But I had some creativity bubbling up in me that I just had to find something to do with. So I ran it by my wife, Mrs. Krabs. I entertained the idea of maybe even starting a podcast. And she said, that's a great idea. But instead, I pivoted over to YouTube. Many people in the world were already buying microphones and headphones and equipment like this for Zoom calls and video conferencing. And I figured since I already had to make this investment, why not go out all the way and get some pieces I could use for years and begin my own production line and videos. After all, I was hugely inspired by a lot of others doing videos online, and I really wanted a piece of that pie. So the first thing I did is look up what microphones people are using. And admittedly, I didn't know much. Even though I'm a singer, I'm a songwriter, I'm a musician, I admittedly didn't know much about microphones used for broadcasting. And the very first one I came across was the Blue Yeti. Specifically, the Blue Yeti Nano. This is a much smaller mic. It is a USB to micro USB port, and that micro USB port was renowned for falling out of the microphone. The windscreen did not stop the pop like it was meant to. The traditional Blue Yeti scratched that itch a lot better. It executed those features a lot better than the Blue Yeti Nano. However, it had a great price point. It was a great entry-level microphone, and I jumped both feet in on that purchase, as well as going all in on my very first video editor ever, Vegas. Now, I admittedly had a pretty quality gaming PC. Now, my monitor wasn't all that impressive. It was a pretty average monitor, 720 resolution, super low refresh rate, but it's all I had at the time. And at the time, I didn't really know the difference between resolutions and refresh rates and what made a quality monitor a quality monitor. However, my gaming PC could hang pretty well for the most part, at least on medium and high graphics. So I thought I had a lot of the pieces in place in order to do a good job. With Mrs. Krabs' support behind me and entry-level gear ready at my command, I started testing miner videos with my friends. First, I jumped into 7 Days to Die and just started recording some of my basic gameplay, practicing commentating what I was doing to ensure that I could carry on a conversation while I was playing. And then I would sort of edit those things down to 2 or 3 minutes and send them to my friends just to kind of get their input. And of course, they would say things like, try doing this or try doing that. Make it longer, make it better, try using text, try using sound effects, try using music. And of course, I tried all of those things, and I even gained a little bit of skill and a little bit of prowess with the editor. And after several times doing that, I tried my hand at my first long-form video. And on May 30th, 2020, out came my very first video entitled 7 Days to Die, Episode 1, Alpha 18. It was more or less 30 minutes of me playing on day one and getting through the starter quests of that game, over-explaining every little thing I did and breathing heavy into the microphone with very, very minimal editing between those action points. Overall, all of my friends and family were super excited that I was trying something new, and they were really proud of me for sort of overcoming an internal crisis I was having that year by channeling some of the anxiety and stress I was undertaking at work and in my personal life into something productive. Now, without going into too much detail, COVID was certainly a very stressful time for us all. Many people lost their jobs. Many people experienced deaths in their families and in their communities. Many people lost it all. I was one of the few unfortunate people who kept a job during that entire time. However, the place I worked was being heavily influenced by a rather nasty leader in our organization. That leader was very morally corrupt and was influencing a lot of my team and a lot of my daily responsibilities, sometimes challenging my own integrity and putting me in positions where I didn't feel confident that the data I was producing was truthful and honest. And that created a lot of tension for me. So these long durations of stress as I was welcoming my second son into the world. He was very young, in diapers at the time. I had just finished a stressful time of working on my graduate degrees and getting those behind me. I started thinking, reflecting, and fasting and sort of meditating on who am I if I am not this person who works at this place. And I landed on this one phrase, and I've adopted this phrase ever since, and it really galvanized the Crab Clown Jimmy YouTube channel effort. And that phrase is, I am an entertainer and I am an educator. As I've mentioned before many times in my live streams and of course already on this podcast, I have a long history of playing and singing and emceeing on stage. I've done a lot of training and speaking and keynote sessions at conferences and stuff like that on stage, so I'm no stranger to a microphone. I'm very difficult to intimidate or embarrass, and I'm very extroverted and outgoing. And so when I get on stage in front of people, it's a naturally comforting place for me because in general, I have a lot to say about the topics on which I feel confident. And perhaps most importantly, I posture myself well as a learner. I listen to the perspectives of others, including experts, developing experts, people who just want to ask, discuss, debate, and learn about things. I engage generally pretty well with all of those types of people. And so engaging with an online audience at the time with a camera off, I wasn't using a camera at all, felt like a natural thing for me. Now, admittedly, those first several seasons of videos, probably the first 20 or 30 videos I had, were incredibly rough. I was learning an editor. I was learning about production on the AV side of everything. And even though I've worked in music for a good long time, I've never really spent a lot of time mixing music or balancing or EQing music all that well. So my skills there were rather unrefined. I started inviting my other AVL peers, that's audiovisual lights peers, people who ran physical production in like churches or music venues or other types of stage spaces to weigh in on some of my videos. One of those was Chunky Code Monkey, my good friend who has supported the channel from the very beginning. He did some graphics for me. He even showed me through Video Share how to use some of the basic features of editing in Vegas. And without him, I would have been completely lost. And it was a huge benefit to get to pick his brain along the way. And I'm very thankful for him. Without him, much of what I was doing at the time would have been notoriously less quality. And it would have taken me a lot longer to learn as quickly as I did to get to where I am now. So that's the how, when, and why I got started. My first video series was an Alpha 18 series that ran a full 8 episodes. From there, Alpha 19 kicked off, and I ran that series all the way to episode 21, one of my still longest running seasons ever. But before that season would end, something crazy happened, and the Fun Pimps actually shared one of my Alpha 19 playthrough videos. It blew my mind. At the time, I had 70 or 80 subscribers. Most of those obviously people I knew, obviously people who were my friends. But when they shared my video on Twitter and reposted on Instagram, this was the first video to ever completely take off. When all of my other videos were getting 40, 50, 60 views, this was the first video to climb past 1,000 before it really tapped out around that 1,300 view count. This was also the first time I learned about people commenting negatively or disliking on videos. Even though I was a new and struggling and enthusiastic YouTuber, all of my comments were super encouraging and uplifting, until that video caught some traction that was shared by the Fun Pimps, the developers of one of the games I play the most often on the channel, the 7 Days to Die game. A lot of comments started coming in that were perhaps more truthful than I deserved to hear at the time, if we're being honest. But still, it was a super encouraging moment for me to see one of my videos get some extra notoriety. It was around this time in the first year I started connecting with my good buddy Hotch. Now, if you've been in the Crab Clown Jimmy Discord or on Twitter for any amount of time, you know that one of our biggest hype men for the channel is this guy named Hotch. He runs his own YouTube channel called Spuds Buds Club. I'm going to link this channel in the description so you can circle over and see some of the cool stuff he's doing. But Hotch reached out to me on Instagram and said, you know what, man, you need to set up a Patreon, because if you did, I would totally donate to it. And at first I thought that was kind of weird. You know, a lot of people messaged me on Instagram at the time who would ask questions about the video. Instead of commenting on the video, they would just comment on Instagram or something like that. And I'd go back and forth with them for a little bit and get to know them and hear their story and ask questions and just do our normal thing. But this guy Hotch was pretty persistent. And so I created a Patreon. I created 4 or 5 levels. And he jumped in at almost the next to highest level or the highest level right away. And I said, well, I've got to give this guy something for being willing to offer me 15 or 25 bucks a month or whatever it was at the time. I've changed it a few times since then, but either way, he was my first and only and a very prominent donor. So we started scheduling Discord calls and phone calls and just getting to know each other a little bit, sort of out of respect for his generosity towards the channel. We just spent some time getting to know each other. And I haven't regret that at all. Hotch is still a great friend. We play games on the regular together. He's even done some recording for me. And to my crazy surprise, once Hotch started donating on Patreon, we started seeing other people join on Patreon. I have many Patreon supporters who've been in the game for 2, 3, some of them going on 4 years. And that's crazy to me because I see this channel, roughly 1,300, 1,400 subscribers. Overall, I've got 150,000 views over the lifetime of the channel, which is, again, closing in on 5 years. And we regularly have between 17 and 20 Patreon supporters and anywhere between 3 to 6 YouTube members. These are people who donate to the channel each month. It blows my mind. But still, that's where we are now. That first year, that big kickoff moment was when Hotch decided to become my very first Patreon member. Hotch, if you're listening to this, thank you. You kicked off the start of an era. As I mentioned, at this time, I was in communication with several commenters who would both comment on the video and communicate to me via Instagram pretty regularly, and it was really cool to get to know them. They would also say encouraging things and uplifting things, and I think they just liked my personality, or they thought my quippiness or my jokes or something like really tickled them. I could tell that they were much, much younger than me, so I soaked up those moments and looked for other ways to connect. And that's honestly when I began working on setting up Discord and setting up Twitter and other ways to connect with people. Now, what I haven't mentioned so far were some of the people that I was inspired by at the time. In 2020, I was watching this guy called Glock9. He's a prominent 7 Days to Die YouTuber, huge in the community. Anybody who's ever watched 7 Days to Die gameplay online knows who he is. He is a super crass, vulgar guy from New Jersey. He's a great player. His videos get a lot of attention. He's also collaborated with some other big outfits, but in the zombie survival game genre, he is a guy that almost everyone in this genre has heard from. And I was one of his Patreon supporters, and I thought it was really, really cool that what he was doing had created a full-time job, and I wanted to take my own swing at it, which has brought me to our journey so far. But Glock9, alongside of Cap00, Reach Gaming, and some of these other guys, Jawoodle, that I was enjoying at the time, Neebs Gaming, another one, these were all people that made me want to take a stab at this. But what I quickly learned, which inevitably became one of the ruts in our journey, is that people playing Let's Play games on YouTube was a highly and increasingly saturated thing. Not only was the entire world trapped in their homes, all of them were required to buy video conferencing equipment. So now everybody had headsets, everyone had microphones, everyone had started buying technology, video cards, all of these other things were suddenly growing in price and impossibly difficult to get. And I quickly found out that my best effort in recording and editing and producing these videos was just adding to the noise. Towards the end of 2020, the start of 2021, enters my good friend, Lieutenant Dan. I stumbled onto this guy just scrolling through Reddit, where I would often post links for my videos, and he was also posting links to videos for his YouTube channel, Lieutenant Dan Productions. I'll drop his link in the description below as well. And he was doing 7 Days to Die stuff, and he was creating a story with it. And I was really, really impressed and really, really inspired by his work. He's another man who works in AVL, again, audio video lighting. And so even though he's self-taught, his day job quite literally requires him to record, edit, review, post, produce, all of these things in the realm of audio and video at his day job. So I started commenting on his videos. He started commenting on my videos. He also started playing more kid-friendly games like Spyro and Tabs. And at the time, I had a 6-year-old and a baby in diapers, and they thought everything that he produced was some of the best work ever. We commented on his videos so frequently, he actually did a shout out for my son in one of his Spyro videos. From there, we started messaging. From there, we started collaborating on videos. And it's from him that I got the inspiration to begin doing some light cinematic work and some light storytelling in all of my Let's Plays. If you look back to 2021 and 2022, I started moving away from the Let's Plays and started doing a little bit more acting and voice acting and creating a little bit of a story element. And some of those stories hit really well with some clever moments. Others were a little forced and I learned some lessons from them. But by and large, I discovered that this is how I want to do videos. I'm not just going to plug in my favorite game and breathe heavy into a microphone for 2 hours. Instead, I want to set up camera shots. I want to add music. I want to create emotion and evoke some inspiration in others by pulling them into my videos and giving them space to ask questions like, what if? Lieutenant Dan and I would eventually collaborate in 7 Days to Die in a feature that we called 7 Days Together. This series ran 6 or 8 videos long and took us through the summer of 2021, where eventually we would plan more collaborations together, as well as live streams. Somewhere along the line, I bumped into some guys who suggested that I moved away from Let's Play and storytelling, or at least give those a pause so that we could start some tips and tricks videos. Fast forward a year and a half later, and I produced my first tips and tricks video in a game called Grounded that today has close to 53,000 views on YouTube and is one of my leading videos for the entire channel, quite literally hosting 1/3 of our channel's lifetime view count. I was very, very thankful that one video like this, recommended from viewers, I should say, received so much attention and brought so much attention to the channel, including my Grounded cinematic series. I've done 2 of them. A 3rd one's in the works. And I paired that video with some other tips and tricks type short form content in the form of YouTube Shorts specifically. These 2 efforts brought a lot of attention to the channel, which really, really encouraged me. But I didn't want to stick with the tips and tricks thing because I really like live acting and telling stories and bringing cameras and angles and music and production into it. I wanted to make sure that that was still the flavor of the channel, although I would go on to do some more tips and tricks in 7 Days to Die and even other games later down the line. But I have to pause here to say, before the tips and tricks thing started, I started trying my hand at live streaming. Now this is where I really found my footing, I think. I am something of a personality. I'm admittedly weak when it comes to video editing. It is something that I love, but I am completely, and I mean almost fully self-taught, and therefore there are probably 50 or 60% of the features of my editor that I haven't fully learned how to use yet. There are many that I experiment with, and every time I create a video, I do try to add 1 or 2 new more things. But perhaps one of my greatest strengths in terms of entertainment was my personality on air. This was natural for me. I was super comfortable here. And even though I would stutter sometimes, or I would mix up my words, or even struggle to play the game well, I found that most every live stream that I did would have 5, 10, 15, even 20 viewers at a time, even early on. My first live stream was on August 13th, 2021. And from there, I would start doing a monthly live stream for quite a long time. However, I was super green at it. At this point, I had already met with Lieutenant Dan and started working with him. And so I gave him a call and jumped jumped onto a conference call with him where he literally walked me through setting up my encoder and matching my YouTube account to my encoder to do that well. Later down the line, my good friend Bad Player from Bad Player Gaming would step in and weigh in and walk me through some of the other features of OBS, as he was a quite competent streamer himself. Very, very smart in the realm of AV as well. And he would weigh in on some of my decisions, help me get involved with Streamer.bot and Speaker.bot, and finding creative ways to make what I was doing online in a live sense even better. Guys like Chunky Code Monkey, Bad Player, and Lieutenant Dan regularly weigh in still to help me improve this on little things that they see, like some audio issues I run into sometimes, or even recommending or contributing to bumper videos, sounds, and point redeems during the live streams. And honestly, there are so many others who have weighed in on how to improve live streams and videos and my interaction with others. I can't even begin to name them all. Many of you listening to this who've been a part of the Crab Clown Jimmy community for years, even some of you I've only started speaking with in the last several months. If you could see my Discord notifications at any given time, I'm in probably 60 or 70 different Discord communities, and the DMs I get from all of those, in addition to the Crab Clown community people, I have no shortage of resources and feedback from people who want to see me improve and be successful. The encouragement never stops. I'm humbled by it. I'm sobered by it. And if I'm being completely honest with you and myself, it's carried me a long way. Eventually, I would qualify for partial monetization, which meant that I had like 500 subscribers or 3,000 watch hours in the last year. I forget the exact metrics of it, to be honest. But this would allow people to tip while watching my videos, as well as offer stickers and super chats and stuff like that during the live streams, which really became a fun thing for me as well. Eventually, this year exactly, 2025, I would be awarded with full monetization. This would allow me to run ads in my videos on top of all the other ways that people can contribute to the channel, like through supers and joining memberships. But don't be fooled, Crab Fam. The money a channel like mine brings home is very seldom and very little. I've had monetization now for almost 2 years, at least partial monetization, and I have received 2 payouts, one of them for $113, another one for $145. I will get another payout in 2025, this April 2025, right around the time this podcast airs, which will be for another $145. And those are the only 3 payouts I've had for this YouTube channel in its lifetime. Now, this takes me to my next topic. I get asked all the time by viewers and by friends in the Discord community, Crab, when are you going to go full time? And the answer to that question is pretty simple. I don't mean to go full time. Crab Clown Jimmy has been a joy for me. I love it. I work on it almost every day. My oldest son weighs in on my thumbnails and gives me recommendations. He tells me which videos are his favorite, what about those videos he likes. My wife watches a few of them. She loves watching me do this. She loves supporting me. I am really a super lucky and super blessed guy that everyone in my household celebrates this hobby for me. And many of you who listen and watch, especially those who support monetarily, make it possible for me to continue doing this and to love every single minute of it. This May will be 5 years of me working on this YouTube channel. At the time of this recording, I've got 1,375 wonderful, faithful, kind, and generous subscribers who watch some of my videos. Some of them watch all of my videos. Some of them watch and comment on all of my videos. Others have probably watched 2 or 3 that they think are really cool, and that's all they wanted. Some people show up for one game or another. I've got 7 Days to Die fans, Grounded fans, ARK fans, Sea of Thieves, Rocket League, Tabs, many others who come to watch what they want to watch, and that's great. Here at Crab Clown Jimmy, I say it on live stream all the time, like what you like. You do not have to like every one of my videos because there are going to be some of my videos that you don't like, and that's okay. But one promise I make to my community, and one promise I try to make in my writing and comments online, again, Discord and on socials, and especially on air while live streaming, is that I just want to encourage and celebrate one anotherness. If we can be kind and inclusive and have fun and be silly and rib each other and mock each other and tease and backseat a little bit, all in the name of fun, then my friends, we are fulfilling the intended purpose of playing video games together. Whether we're on a couch side by side mocking each other because one of us isn't good at Smash Bros, or if we're playing Rocket League online, or if we are building the Pantheon in 7 Days to Die, we're having the most fun when we're doing that alongside one another, encouraging one another, showing each other how to play, backseating a little bit, teasing each other when we fail, and just overall having a joyful, jaunty spirit. But for me, at least right now, the plan isn't to go full time. I see YouTube just like I see playing contracted music. I'm going to do YouTube whether there's money or not. I was doing it before I got paid. If everyone stopped paying right away or if monetization was removed for any reason, I would continue doing it. Just like when I go to play in a small coffee shop for tips. I'm there to play either way. If I come home with tips, all the better, but I was there to share my art and to share my music, and I look at YouTube exactly the same way. There will always be those who want to be kind and generous, and I will always be encouraged and sobered by their generous support. But my promise to them is that I love playing video games, I love performing, and I love producing stuff. So that's going to happen. If I wake up tomorrow and had 10,000, 20,000, 100,000 subscribers or something like that, then yeah, we may revisit what's true and what my priorities may be. But if I'm being honest with you at this point in my life, I've earned several college degrees, and I have worked really hard for the position in which I find myself, and I love getting to do what I do at work every day, which is serving students and building courses and working in the field of education and coming home and playing video games with my friends like you online. Now, what else does the future hold, you might ask? Well, there are lots more survival games that I want to try and play, and there's several survival games that I have a history of playing that I want to circle back to. Grounded was very, very popular for my channel, and I haven't finished the initial playthrough and beaten the storyline. I absolutely want to. I would absolutely like to start a live stream series in Grounded as well, so that I can play it on higher difficulties and look at building some unique structures in that game. It is a really well-made piece, and it is definitely one of my favorite titles. I also plan to experiment with more tips and tricks. As the channel grows, I do need to have a little bit more of spice and variety. Of course, I have 5 or 6 games that I play on the regular, and people who know me and people who enjoy my work know to expect those types of games. But I want to experiment a little bit more with tips and tricks, tutorials, news releases, and stuff like that to see if I have a knack for creating that type of content as well. Since I'm kind of flashy and quippy, and let's admit it, a little derpy at times, I think I have a tone of voice and a silly enough spirit to make these educating and fun at the same time. So it is very likely you will see some more tips and tricks and maybe even some news releases of some of my favorite games here in the next several months. Now, as I was preparing for this My YouTube Story type of podcast content, I need to make a little bit of a disclaimer. Normally, the Crab Clown podcast is going to be some dialogue between me and another expert in their field on a select topic that ranges anywhere from education to entertainment. Again, sort of the ilk of my spirit, if you will. This is one of the few times I'm going to produce a podcast episode where it's just me. So if you've made it this far, thank you. I'm very encouraged by that. But I wanted to leave you with this. I have paused to create something of a mission and vision for our channel, and I thought it would be really cool to include that here. First, the mission. Now, just like any good organization or any good business or anything like that, a mission is the purpose. So the purpose here at Crab Clown Jimmy is to develop and nurture an intergenerational community of gamers towards kindness and joy. That means if you're young or old and you like playing video games, we can hang out together, have a bunch of laughs, and have a lot of fun doing it. The vision, which is perhaps subject to change as the channel grows, is our preferred future. Where do we want to be 5 years from now? Where do we want to be next year? Who do we prefer to be in the future? And the answer to that question is, I want the channel and myself to stand out as consistently creative and lighthearted. I love making videos for Crab Clown Jimmy. I love the people who show up to support, to laugh, to comment, to tease, to mock, and to contribute to the success of what we've made here. Because if there's anything that's true about running a YouTube channel, is that it's not done in silo. Viewers, commenters, donors, chatters, guys like Hotch, Lieutenant Dan, Chunky Code Monkey, Bad Player, Lunatar, many others who've weighed in on this journey, and you know who you are even if you weren't named today, have made what I do each week and each month a little better. And I'm proud to say that in the 5 years of doing this, I have made some incredible friends. Friends whose faces I've never seen. Friends whose real names I'll never know. But I've shared some life with these people. I've shared some stories with these people. Heck, I've sent some of them mail. But all of you have been a great part of this journey. And as we round off our 5th year this coming May 2025, I mean to think of some fun ways to celebrate our success and this wonderful story that you've helped create. From me to you, thank you. I mean to maintain the creative spirit that we've established right here at Crab Clown Jimmy for years to come. Well, there you have it. my YouTube story in a nutshell. I know I say it a lot, but I always like to say it as much as I can. A huge thank you to all the support you've offered just in watching the video, just in listening to the podcast. For those of you who comment or who weigh in on socials or Discord, I stay humbled at your contributions and by your support here, and I look forward to creating so much more in the future. Your input carries a long way. Your generous support allows us to do new things, and I can't wait to keep exploring new boundaries with the Crab Clown Jimmy YouTube community. If you haven't already, be sure to scroll down to the video description and to look at our Patreon. For as little as $1 a month, you can contribute to the work we do around here. It's never expected, but always appreciated. Otherwise, stick around for more podcast content right here at Crab Clown Jimmy.